In a riveting session before South Africa's ad hoc committee, Lieutenant General Mosikili, who was serving as acting national commissioner when the controversial PKTT disbandment directive was issued, delivered stunning testimony about the circumstances surrounding the minister's letter. The seasoned 36-year police veteran revealed that she only discovered the directive on January 2nd through media reports, expressing deep concern over its tone and questioning its very authenticity. General Mosikili disclosed that the directive was leaked to the media before SAPS leadership could even process it internally, and flagged a mysterious unknown Gmail address among the recipients. She further exposed how Lieutenant General Sibiya bypassed her authority as acting national commissioner by contacting General Masemola directly, effectively sidelining her during a critical moment. The general painted a picture of chaos and confusion within SAPS leadership, raising serious questions about political interference, chain of command violations, and whether the minister's directive was designed to destabilize police operations during one of the country's most high-risk operational periods. Her testimony adds explosive new evidence to Parliament's investigation into the alleged unlawful disbandment of the Provincial Killings Task Team and political meddling within the South African Police Service.
So at which point did you become aware of the minister's directive?
Thank you, Advocate. I only became aware of the email on the 2nd of January when I was back in the office. And I must indicate here that upon the investigation on the 2nd, and the other thing that has drawn my attention to the directive was the media inquiry that was forwarded to me by the national spokesperson. And I think at the time, all media houses, News 24 already published the directive of the disbandment of the PKTT. It has then required of me as the then acting national commissioner to investigate and to want to understand whether this is the truth of what is on the media space. And subsequent, I have received the WhatsApp message from the national spokesperson on the same matter. It was later in the evening, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 18, if not past 1800 hours. Then the first thing, the investigation of the team resumed at that time, and I was informed when I get into the office the next morning of the existence of the letter. And I also noticed at that time that the letter was also emailed to me as it was sent to the National Commissioner and the staff in the National Commissioner's office.
And you have indicated the list of people to whom the directive were issued. All of this is in paragraph 14 and up to paragraph 17 of your statement. So when you became aware of the letter on the 2nd of January 2025, General, what was your reaction to it? What was going through your mind, and how did you view this directive?
To be honest and frank, I became confused. I wasn't unsure. I was also surprised, and I questioned the authenticity of the directive as I could not believe the content, and precisely because of the tone of the letter. For me, it was unexpected, and in particular, the National Commissioner, we had a discussion on the matters to attend to, and the date was just too close from the time that the National Commissioner was to start the leave and the date of the letter, that perhaps the National Commissioner have forgotten to mention this during our discussion. And I took time to interrogate, looking at various other issues that this directive will have, how it was conveyed. And I think most importantly was the fact that it was already leaked to the media when we have not yet dealt with the matter internally. So what I did was to call the immediate staff of the Office of the National Commissioner, which I normally work with in the absence of the National Commissioner. They will serve the office because it is me continuing with the office of the National Commissioner to interrogate whether it is authentic, whether we have received the letter, and yes, it was confirmed, and I was then made to see for myself that the email was sent on the 31st of December at around 17:20. You shall recall, advocate, that I said at the time, it is when the operations were already underway in Gauteng. And the addresses of the letter was from the Minister's Chief of Staff, Mr. Cedric Nkabinde, and he has sent the email to the National Commissioner who's on leave, General Masemola, to myself, understanding that he was aware that the National Commissioner is on leave and I am acting, because ordinarily, if the mail is meant for the National Commissioner, it will not come to me. But the understanding at the time was that it is sent to me because of my position as the acting National Commissioner. It was also sent to Major General Sibiya and to Brigadier Litoko. Major General Sibiya was at the time working in the office of the National Commissioner as the Executive Secretariat, and Brigadier Litoko is the PA of the National Commissioner. This was sent to other 5 people, CC'd to them. The main was the 4 of us, and it was also sent to the Minister's advisor, Mr. Vusi Pikoli, or Advocate Vusi Pikoli, Ms. Mokgotsi, who is the Minister's Communication Director, Mr. Mtembu CU, as well as Mlandu. And then there was the 5th addressee that also received the same mail, which reflected as home13404@gmail.com. So these were the 5 people alongside myself, National Commissioner, and the 2 members in the National Commissioner's office who have received the email.
So after you received the email, did you then get in touch with the National Commissioner, and what were your subsequent instructions from the National Commissioner?
As I've indicated that I was concerned about this email, the leak thereof, and the tone, after establishing the correctness that indeed that such email was sent, I then inquire from the office staff of the National Commissioner, which is the Executive Secretariat, how the matter was dealt with, whether they have become aware of the letter on the 31st. And for me, it was because they were aware that I'm busy with the operations with the agency of the letter, they could have acted on the letter or not. And yes, the general confirmed that on receipt, they did send a WhatsApp message to the National Commission. The next thing that I did, because I want to reiterate the issue of the tone of the letter. What I did at that point in time was to get guidance and be advised. Normally, when I am acting, I will not unnecessarily contact the National Commissioner, because my understanding is that he takes leave because he wants to rest. Therefore, the matters that he has left me to deal with, I will deal with them unless there is a need to contact him, any critical issue that will require him. With the gravity that the letter will have to the organization, I found it necessary at that time that I need to get guidance from the National Commissioner. I need to also get guidance because at the time there was already a media hype in this particular matter, including the inquiry that General Mukhonazi and the Chief of Staff were in a telephonic conversation, and General Mukhonazi might have said some threatening words in that. That is how it was portrayed in the media at the time. So there were two issues that instantly triggered me to call the National Commissioner. And the first call, he did not pick up. I continued to establish facts. And when he realized my call, he called back and we discussed the matter, which he then indicated to me that he did receive the WhatsApp, but he did not pay much attention to that WhatsApp because of the fact that he's on leave. And then he guided on how to deal with the matter.
Just before you, General, you get to what you then subsequently did after your conversation with the National Commissioner, you've indicated that the letter of the minister was leaked to the media before you even became aware that you were part of the persons to whom the email was sent. Do you know how the email got leaked through the media or to other platforms? And I also want to maybe hear your view on, you've mentioned in paragraph 16 that there was a foreign email address that you didn't know, which is the Gmail account. Do you know whose email address that is? Have you subsequently discovered whose email address that is? And do you know how it was leaked to the media?
I do not know who the email belonged to, except that the Chief of Staff of the Minister, Mr. Nkabinde, did indicated the knowledge of the email address. This is part of the investigation that I was doing at the time that myself and the National Commissioner was conversing on this matter. As I was struggling to get hold of him immediately, what I did was to establish how, including the WhatsApp that the secretariat, executive secretariat sent it out as to whom did she send, and there was a proof that it went from her to the National Commissioner only, and she indicated that she could have contacted me, but she needed guidance as well because that was the first day of a National Commissioner being out of office. So part of the investigations that I was doing from the second until this time that now we are on the telephone conversation with the National Commissioner and having the staff in my office was to follow through how this communique went out and what could be the possible leak of the email to the media and who could have communicated this because it was on the News 24 just to follow up and check who will be the journalist that has communicated this. And the spokesperson as well sent me the media inquiry around 1800 the previous day, and she was also in my office. So we were doing those follow-ups just to check how the mail leaked to the media. And I recall previously when I saw emails of the organization being sent to the private emails, I will engage the people who are the senders of the email just to make sure that we avoid this type of leakages. So I still do not know even today who the email belonged to, but I'm just forgetting. I think I did call the Chief of Staff and he did explain who the email belongs to.
Now, in your statement, General, you indicate that in paragraph 27 that you instructed Brigadier Litoko to send 3 emails to various heads that would be affected by the directive. Was that on the instruction of the National Commissioner?
Instruction, I will rather opt to say the advice. Remember, I call him for advice and for guidance because it was for the first time that something of this nature happens when I'm acting. I think I acted 5 or more times before this particular issue came, and I wanted to understand. So the guidance that the National Commissioner gave, I conveyed it immediately with the office of the minister, the PA of the National Commissioner who was assisting me at that time, which is Brigadier Lituko, to then continue after the guidance of the National Commissioner that he will deal with the matter when he comes back, because if you read that directive, it required the initial presentation to be made on mid-January. So it said mid-January. So my interpretation and analysis of that was that it was a calculated period that by this time the National Commissioner will be back in office. So when he said other nitty-gritties in this particular communique will be dealt with when I come back. In the meantime, he requested that I can give the directives to start preparing what the directive wanted. Remember, I said, he said to me, I received the WhatsApp, but I did not pay much attention to it until now that I see you guys are calling me on the same matter. And I was not the only person who called the National Commissioner in relation to the same matter.
In paragraph 25 of your main statement, General, you indicate that General Sibiya also approached the National Commission, got in contact with the National Commission in relation to the directive. And then you also say that he sidelined you. Could you maybe elaborate on what you mean by that?
As I was busy with this junior staff that was in my office, my colleague, which is a norm, normally we will converge at the boardroom with National Commissioner at the beginning of the week. And because we were in the middle of the festive season, it was no surprise as the Deputy National Commissioner walks into my office, and I then release the members because I can't talk with senior officers in their presence. So in our discussion, he was also checking what is it that we need to do. I think it was a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm speaking under correction. And the matter of the letter then of the directive then came into that conversation. And as I thought I will narrate what needs to happen because it is on the media space, I already directed Brigadier Lituko that this is what the National Commissioner has directed, this is what we need to do. That is when he walked in. So I was about to tell him, this is how we are going to deal with the matter. But then before even saying this, that I was surprised that he was raising the matter and going further to indicate that I contacted the National Commissioner. So I think the issue of sideline for me is the protocol of the police. It dictates that if the National Commissioner is on leave, there is a person that will resume that responsibility. And there will be a communique that will go to all email users in the police. So everybody was aware. It is the 3rd of the month, 3 days after the National Commissioner have started the leave. Obviously, we have known even days prior to him going that by this time, the National Commissioner will be out of office. This is the person that will be acting as the National Commissioner. So the expectation, particularly at that level, is that you will know that if the National Commissioner is not in the office, because he sometimes acts, and the expectation is that you will respect that office, not a person, but the office. Therefore, you need to speak to the person who is in position at the time. But then the surprise that I found myself in is when he responded to say, I already called the National Commissioner and he said, I must do this. So in my view, that was unnecessarily. And why will you call somebody that is on leave when I'm here? Unless he calls I'm not available on the phone, he gets frustrated that the matter is getting worse. Let me rather call the accounting officer. There is nothing wrong for him to call the National Commissioner. I must say, there is nothing wrong. But I will expect that before calling the National Commissioner, establish from me if I know how to deal with the matter before you even call the National Commissioner. But I want to reiterate, there's nothing wrong. If you are on leave and there is a matter that requires you, the office can contact you. But at that level, I was expecting that, Madam, do you know, are you aware of this? It's already on the media space. How are we going? Perhaps me and him could have discussed, and I wouldn't even have called the National Commissioner because we will have at least come up with the ways of dealing with the matter. But saying I've already contacted the National Commissioner, and what National Commissioner told me, it's what he was saying the National Commissioner told you.
I understand. But it could also be that he has a very good working relationship with the National Commissioner and probably felt comfortable to call because of the nature of the relationship they have.